Hey, it's the Rage Monkeys here to tell you about a trip that we took to Venice Beach and Brea Tar Pits in Los Angeles. This was part of a week-long trip that we went on in Los Angeles. Check out my other videos from when we visited Disneyland, Warner Brothers Studios, Griffith Park, Disneyland California Adventures, Malibu, and Universal Studios Hollywood. We started our day at Venice Beach bright and early, driving about an hour from where we were staying in Hollywood. After finding a spot in the large parking lot near the Venice fishing pier, we were ready to explore. But first, we had to brave the public bathroom near the parking lot. Let's just say it was an experience. Once we were out on the pier, things started to look up. Well, sort of. I mean, the pier itself was a little well used, but the view made up for it. We stopped to watch some surfers that were below us, though honestly there wasn't much surfing going on. It seemed like most of them were just kind of floating around, waiting on a wave that never seemed to come. But hey, maybe that is surfing. But the view of the mountains in the distance was really nice and definitely different from what we usually see on the East Coast. Next up, we decided to rent bikes to explore the area. After learning our lesson in Key West, where skipping the bikes was a mistake, this time we didn't pass them up. So we hopped on those bikes and headed north along the paved path that runs right by the beach. Along the way, we stopped to walk past some of the strip shops and little areas of shops, but to be honest, none of them really stood out. They're mostly just your typical souvenir and beach supply shops. Then we made our way past the famous Muscle Beach, but there wasn't a whole lot of muscle there. What was impressive, though, was the Venice Beach skate park. We stood there for quite a while, watching skaters of all ages show off their skills. As someone who has never mastered the ability to even stand on a stationary skateboard, this was seriously impressive. Back on the bikes, we continued north towards the Santa Monica Pier. Once we reached the pier, we decided to skip the carnival scene, especially since we'd already visited a few amusement parks earlier in the week. After our ride, we returned the bikes and headed to lunch at Venice Whaler. We sat on a second-story deck with views of a parking lot and some construction vehicles, some palm trees, I guess, and way off in the distance we could see the Pacific Ocean. Not the most scenic lunch spot, but the food more than made up for it. The fish and chips were delicious. I definitely ate more than I should have. Finally, we headed down to the water. So we're kind of finishing up our day here, just kind of hanging out on the beach, getting our feet wet. Not quite sure what I think of this area. The houses are nice. The food was good. The bike trail was fun to ride. Definitely not as fancy as what you see in the movies. Everything I feel like could maybe use a little touch of paint. The water is cold, but I was expecting that for the Pacific. But mostly it's just a lot of Venice Beach smells like pee. Yeah, pee. Yeah. A lot of people on the beach. The water temperature really isn't as bad as it was at first. It's actually, I kind of wish I bought a bathing suit. Yeah, I really wish I brought my bathing suit. Who needs a swimsuit? Back to Hollywood, where our Airbnb was, and we stopped at In-N-Out Burger. Yum! On our last day of our vacation, day 7, we went back to Universal Studios to check out City Walk, which doesn't require a ticket into the park. We checked out a few of the stores and then headed into Bubba Gump Shrimp Company for lunch. We attempted to eat shrimp in all of its forms. We did our best, but there's a lot of shrimp. After lunch, it was off to the Brea Tar Pits. While this wasn't exactly on my must-see list, but practically everyone I talked to before the trip asked if we were going to the tar pits. All that talk about tar got us curious, so we made it happen. Turns out this was far more fascinating than I imagined. Right in the middle of the city are these huge bubbling lakes of tar. Some of the pits were a bit sneaky, covered in leaves and disguised, but if you looked closely, you'd see the little bubbles popping up between the leaves. We headed into the museum, which was just so well done, and so many dead things. It was mind-blowing to see the solidified tar that was just filled with layers of bones and skulls and entire skeletons mixed in there. The theory is that animals would get trapped in the tar, and then the other animals would come along thinking they found an easy meal, and they'd get stuck too. Over time, the tar mixed it all up into one big, sticky, fossilized soup. This is just 404 of the dire wolf skulls out of more than 1,600 of them that were uncovered within the tar pits. Like I said, so many dead things. Back outside, we got to see an active dig site where paleontologists are still uncovering even more fossils. And of course, my son, the perpetual reader, had to stop and do some reading while we explored. With our final stop checked off the list, it was time to head to LAX for our red-eye flight home. But before we left, we were treated to this. And no, I have absolutely no idea what was going on here.